Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Marvin Byrd Show. I'm your host, Marvin Byrd. Here, of course, we believe that teachers are leaders, and as a result, we strive to do our very best to empower teachers with the skills, information, and resources that they need in order to lead their students to success. Now, let's get into this really quickly. I know that many of you out there are already masters of the art of wait time. Wait time. You ask a question, you throw it out there, and then there's this silence. And it becomes awkward for some because they just want somebody to answer that question. Somebody get this thing moving, please. Somebody answer the question. Just not me. They don't want the teacher. Don't look at me. Please don't call on me to answer that question because I don't know the answer to that question. But wait time is important, obviously, because we think at different speeds. We think at different speeds, and wait time is imperative. It's imperative to consider that because we want to give all students an opportunity to put their voice in the room. Otherwise, you just get the same students answering those questions. So I know you're familiar with that, but today what I want to do is I want to focus a little bit on thinking speeds and some of the science of as it relates to thinking speeds and how students actually process information. And then I want to give you some tips that you can use with your students in order to help them increase their thinking speed, which is good. That's really good. So let's jump into this. Obviously, yes, students have different thinking speeds. And what does that mean? What does that mean for you? Well, here's what it means for you is I know this has happened many times throughout my career and many times throughout your career as well, I'm sure, where you have students who are hesitant to raise their hand and answer a question because they'll say, well, I don't want to look stupid or something along those lines. Now, definitely, when you come across that, it's important. You got to correct that. You have to correct that thinking. You have to correct that thinking because what it does is it affects their mindset. It affects their mindset. They feel like, oh, if I answer this question, there's a chance that I might look stupid, that I may be embarrassed in front of my peers. And so as a leader, you've got to get in there and you got to talk about that. You got to help adjust that thinking because it can affect achievement. So thinking speed, because a lot of students will equate speed. If you ask a question, 2 + 2, that's 4. And people will, students will marvel at, whoa, I know that's an elementary question, but you know what I mean. If someone is able to quickly answer the question, they didn't even take a full second to think about it. They just knew it. People will say, ooh, you're smart. So they'll equate speed with intelligence. Now, as impressive as that is, there are people who will eventually arrive at that answer, but they just need a little bit more time, and that's the point of what we're talking about today. Thinking speeds, just acknowledging thinking speeds, and then ultimately, like I said at the end, helping students improve that. And so where does this come from? Where does this mindset come from that if you're very quick with your answer, then oh, you're amazing. That's awesome. Well, I think it started with these time standardized tests. They enforced that notion that those who could quickly recall and process information up here and spit out an answer, it's like, whoa, you're very, very intelligent. And you as a leader in the classroom, you have to push against that. You have to correct students in their thinking. And because I myself, I'm not very fast on my feet at times, and sometimes I need a moment. And what I do is I've learned at this stage of my life, I won't even fill in the silence when I'm thinking. I'll just, like, with a or I think, I won't even do that. I'll just be quiet and think, because I know myself. I'm comfortable with myself. Sometimes I need that time. But for students, it's different. For students, it's different. For kids, it's different. It's just different. You know how it is. It's different. So students have thinking speeds, and there's that awkward silence. And I can remember myself when I was a student. This happened a whole lot of times in world language classes, or I took a lot of French when I was in school, and there was those moments where I didn't really do my homework and I wasn't ready. The teacher closes the door and the teacher's speaking French, and I'm like, oh boy, don't call on me. Please don't call on me. And I still have those feelings when I have those memories when I go into world language classrooms. I'm thinking to myself, oh gosh, I hope you guys did everything you need to do and you're able to answer the question that she just asked, because I have no idea. I can't help you. So here's how thinking works. Here is the full cycle. I want to give this to you, because when you, the teacher, when you pose this question, here is what happens. Here's what you're expecting to be happening, in your classroom constantly. Here's how thinking works. Number one, student, you receive information through the senses. Receive information through the senses. And then number two, student processing the information. So number three, that we have, you got to make a decision or a conclusion based on that information. Okay, we're going through the cycle. This is how thinking works. And then number four, execute a decision or proceed with that conclusion that you made based off of step number three. And then step number five is analyze the feedback. What happened? How did that work when I proceeded with that conclusion, with that thinking? What happened? What happened when I acted on what I concluded? That's the way thinking works. And so there's an entire process that comes with thinking. And I believe that's why we emphasize practice. That's why in the literature we emphasize the importance of students being able to practice without fear of their grade being affected, because the more students get opportunities to go through this cycle, this thinking cycle, the more opportunities they get to go through it, test it out, see how it works, and most importantly, at the end there, just analyze that feedback. Because as I tell students, feedback gives us the opportunity to try again with better information. We get to improve. Feedback is great. And feedback, a student can get feedback from answering a question incorrectly. Because what the teacher can do, the teacher can do, is you can help them to adjust their thinking. And we all do this as teachers. We protect that student as well. You say, "Oh, Johnny, I see. I understand why you gave that answer. I think I think based off that answer, I imagine that this is what you were thinking. You were thinking this way, but I want to add something else to your thinking. I want you to consider this as well when you think again. So you've given that feedback. Johnny gets to think again. He's got better information. He receives that. And then he can go through that cycle again, receive that information, that feedback, process that feedback, make a different decision or conclusion. And then he can execute that decision and proceed with that conclusion, or basically, in this case, just give a different answer because now Johnny is thinking differently. So when you look at that process, when you consider that, that's quite there's quite a bit going on there. There's quite a bit going on there. And so, yes, some people, they can go through that process very quickly. And then, for others, they need just a little bit more time. And that's why, I gave you just all those steps, all those things that are going on, and why you, the leader in the classroom, it's that fifth part. You being a really good leader, being cognizant and intentional when it comes to helping your students develop the right mindset. It's because that feedback, it is a challenge of mine with my son right now. He's 8 years old, and receiving that feedback is very difficult for him because there's feelings that come with it that, oh, I messed up, I got it wrong. He has a hard time separating the feelings from, this feedback is going to be good for me because it's going to help me go through the thinking process again so that I can make a different decision, think a different way, and have a better outcome. It's hard for him to get there. And I imagine that for many students, they feel the same way, just the embarrassment of potentially getting something incorrect in front of the class, or just the fear of failure in general. It paralyzes them and prevents them from being able to see the value of feedback. And so, as leaders, we have to be aware of that and respond as best we can. All right. So that's how thinking works. I want you to be mindful of that cycle. I want you to be mindful of that cycle when you go back into your class and you're working with your students. Be mindful of how that cycle works, and just know that students they're going through it, and it's a lot, and they go through it at different speeds. All right, another thing that I want to share with you. This is really interesting. I got this information from an article on NPR, and the title of the article is "Smart People Really Do Think Fast." So it's genetic. So this is really interesting. I just want to give you a couple things from this article, and with this article, I will share with you. I'll link this article in the description section. You can download it. You'll also be able to get it on my newsletter. I'll include all the things that I reference in this podcast in my newsletter. If you want to get a copy of it, it's free. Just go to marvinbyrd.com/newsletter and sign up, and you'll receive that, and you'll get all of the resources that I reference in the show. Here we go. Smart people really do think faster. Check this out. The smarter the person, the faster information zips around the brain, a UCLA study finds. And this ability to think quickly apparently is inherited. The study, published in the Journal of Neuroscience, looked at the brains and intelligence of 92 people. All the participants took standard IQ tests. Then the researchers studied their brains using a technique called diffusion tensor imaging, or DTI. Woo, that's going over the head. But the point is, they're telling us that smart people really do think faster. Let's read some more. DTI is a variant of magnetic resonance imaging, MRI, that can measure the structural integrity of the brain's white matter, which is made up of cells that carry nerve impulses from one part of the brain to another. The greater the structural integrity, the faster nerve impulses travel. So we're thinking fast, the faster the nerve impulses travel, greater structural integrity. Okay. All right. These images really give you a picture of the mental speed. These nerve impulses are traveling because they have greater structural integrity. These images really give you a picture of the mental speed of the brain, says Paul Thompson, PhD, a professor of neurology at UCLA School of Medicine. Isn't that interesting? And so that just gives us, it's just good information for us to have. It's good information for us to have and for students to have as well. Just when you have a student who's just down on himself and they're thinking that they're just saying these awful things about themselves and about their abilities as a student. Well, hey, you know what? Just because you need a little bit more time, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You've done nothing wrong. You are who you are, and you are very, very special. Don't be discouraged because your classmate seems to be getting it a lot faster than you. And I think this also it opens the door for another conversation. I know that, back in the day, we used to group students by their ability, and still in a way we do that. When you talk about, you got AP honors courses and whatnot, those students for the most part are grouped by their ability. Now I know that there's definitely wiggle rooms like, hey, let's put this student in this class. No, that's not really a good idea, but let's go ahead and do it anyways. So and some of you out there thinking, yes, that's what's happening in my classroom. So I get it. But I do think that this is important information to consider, and maybe not act on, but at least to have a conversation, have a conversation about it when you consider this information. It's genetic, because yes, you as a teacher, you can do things in your own environment to affect your students, to possibly help them improve and develop a growth mindset. But the question is also, what can administration do in light of this information? Or what should administration do in light of this information? Is there something better? Is there something better? Is there a better model out there? I don't know. Just posing a question. Because, ladies and gentlemen, anything that adversely affects mindset and self-efficacy has to be challenged. It has to be challenged head on. And when we talk about leadership, that's right up there. When you're leading individuals, you have to concern yourself with the way that they think and the way that they feel about their effort. And that's when we talk about self-efficacy, the way people feel about their effort. If they put in the effort, if they put in their best effort, is it really going to make a difference? So I want you to think about, when we talk about self-efficacy, anything that adversely affects the mindset and self-efficacy, we have to challenge, because the mind affects how you see things and how you see opportunity. I often tell students that opportunity looks like work. It looks like additional work. And it's been, I've seen, unfortunately, throughout my career, I've seen students forego opportunities because it's just extra work. Their thing is, and they will put words into their thinking by saying it doesn't take all that. It's not that deep, because they don't want to do the work. And I wonder if I wonder if they arrive at that conclusion because of just a lack of experience with success, a lack of experience with success because there has just been not enough practice, not enough moments of going through that thinking cycle, getting it close, getting some feedback, going through that thinking cycle again. That's how you do it. Oh, and then what comes with that success is, oh, wow, I did it. That feels good. Because what's also important, going back to that thinking cycle, they get, once they just start to get a feel for it. They can get it consistently. Ooh, I got this. Got this. I'm going to take this and run with it. I can do this myself. I can use this principle and I can apply it to different areas of my life, different classes. It doesn't matter. I can do this. And it's like riding a bike, I would say. Kids learning how to ride a bike. Oh, they fall. Stay with me. Stay with me for about, stay with me. You stay with the kid for 20 steps, right? And then they fall. Okay, you stay with the kid 20 steps again. Okay, they go a little bit further before they fall. Okay, now we're going to go down to 15 steps. Stay with the kid. They're moving along, then they fall. Okay, but you notice they're getting better until eventually, okay, 5 steps, go. And then the kid is able to just ride a bike, and they're riding a bike all over the place. And I think that's how it works. Perhaps we need to be more mindful of that as teachers along the way, as we're sending students through second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. Perhaps we need to be mindful of that process, that thinking. Perhaps we need to be mindful of that. Maybe it's not something you necessarily put a grade on, but it's important. And you high school teachers out there, you know what I'm talking about. Because in high school, we've only got 4 years. We've got 4 years to get them to the point where they're ready to take care of themselves, to think for themselves, support themselves, make their own decisions. My goodness gracious. I remember when I was 18 years old, that was scary for me. That was scary for me. And throughout my career, I've been scared for some students, just knowing that, oh gosh, you're going to graduate. And I don't know. I just don't know if you're ready. I hope you're ready. I'll be praying for you. So mindset affects how students see opportunities, how we see opportunities. And I want to take this moment to plug my Vision Chasers YouTube channel, That's my opportunity to still talk with students. I started that channel when I was a teacher and I used it to flip my classroom. Now I just use it to put out motivational content towards students, and you can use those videos in your classroom because I try to keep them very brief. I do a quote of the week and talk about different soft skills and just give an inspiring word to young people to help them to continue to rise up and chase their vision of success. And you do whatever you need to do. Find yourself, find that voice. Find those resources that are going to help you to manage, to help students think differently, to help students develop that growth mindset. Because any action or inaction, it begins with a thought. It begins with a thought. Think about students who've learned to avoid learning or avoid attempting to learn. Like those actions, that action to avoid learning, that began with a thought. It began with a thought. Oh, I've never been good at social studies, so I'm going to skip that class. Right? That any action or inaction, it begins with a thought. So you got to get in there. You got to help your students develop that growth mindset, whatever it takes. And there's so many resources out here, and that's why you're here. So I appreciate you being here. All right. So how do you adjust? How do you adjust? How do you respond to this? I'm going to give you a couple things. Number one, you need to realize the power of your leadership. Realize the power of your leadership. And once you identify that, just know that, hey, I've got to respond to that. I've got to respond to that. And I would say a poor mindset. It's like a sickness. Like your kids aren't well if they have a poor mindset. If they don't have great expectations as it relates to their effort, if they feel like, oh, I've never been good at this and it's just not going to work out, you've got to step in there because you're their leader. You care for them. So I also want to let you know that you do have the capacity to motivate and be a difference maker. You've been doing that. So I want to remind you of that. You can do that. And you don't need to wait on your district. You can go out and find resources and talk to colleagues and find ways to do this. Because if their mindset is off, then it's going to be very difficult to do what you need to do in terms of your lesson plan to help students learn and grow. So you need to focus on their mindset. And then another thing, I'm also happy. This is a plug right here. Just give you a disclaimer there. I'm working on a book right now. I'm working on a book right now. I'm really excited about that. My weekends have been very busy writing that, and so I cannot wait to share that with you. And that's going to give you some more tools, more things that you can more experiments that you can try, things that you can do to help your students. Because again, here we're all about teachers. Teachers are leaders. I want to help you develop your leadership skills and improve your leadership skills. Now, here's another thing that you can do. So yeah, you can get a copy of that book. I'll let you know. I'll keep you updated. So definitely one thing that you can do is you can pre-order a copy of my book, and I'll let you know when pre-orders are available. We're very, very, very close. We're just putting it together right now. So, and as always, I thank you so much for your support. I really do. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Another thing you could do is you can credit effort. Credit effort. I've been taught this by someone who's working with my wife and I on raising our kids. And, we realize as parents, because we're also leaders, parents are leaders as well, is that we've got to grow. We've got to be different. We've got to do some different things because our children are older. And so we're doing some different things there. But what this therapist told us is that we need to credit effort. And I said to myself, oh my gosh, you just blew my mind. Because as teachers, we need to do the same thing. You need to credit effort. Ooh, Johnny, I love the effort that you put into this. I love the energy that you put into this. This is amazing. Thank you. Not necessarily the outcome, but the effort. You gave me that energy. I love it. And go over the top and celebrate that. Let me share with you just a piece from Carol Dweck's book about mindsets. This is good. This is good. And I'm sure many of you have heard about this. If you haven't, this is a book that you should read. And I'll link to this in the description section as well. She said, the messages you send influence what students believe about themselves. It is necessary to change these messages from ones that praise intelligence to ones that praise effort and tell students that they can achieve. It may just take more time and practice, and it won't happen overnight. This means that instead of saying you are smart, you can say, I loved how you solved that problem. You really thought outside the box. Make sure they know their hard work is helping them to learn better. That's the key right there. That last sentence, when we talk about crediting effort, make sure they know their hard work is helping them to learn better. Really putting really putting a focus, emphasizing that effort, because eventually what's going to happen is they see the value in that effort, and then they really start to put it together when they go through that thinking cycle, and they say, woohoo, wow, I was careful to go through the steps and I got the correct answer. So the effort, doing it the right way, getting time to practice doing it the right way, and then eventually, ooh, my effort has yielded a positive outcome. This is amazing. Like that's really the bonus, because the student's been getting so much praise for their effort. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's challenging because grades are a reality. No doubt, right? Grades are a reality. So it is challenging to get there, but I believe that we can get there. I believe that it's worth a try. It's worth a try. All right. So I want to end this with just a few things that you can encourage students to do. And this is from a blog, and I'll share this blog with you again in the description section, or you can sign up for my newsletter. These are things that students can do to increase their thinking speed. Now, this is an interesting list. It's an interesting list. And again, like a lot of these things that I share with you, these are experiments. There's no silver bullet. There's no one size fits all. You know that. And I definitely know that, right? So let me just give these things to you. These are some things that you can do to help students increase their thinking speed. Chew gum. Yep. Chew gum. The simple act of chewing gum improves mental accuracy, reaction times, and the ability to focus. Now, again, this comes from a blog, and I'm going to share this blog with you. And actually, what I feel the need to do is so it's from braingimmer.com. I just felt the need to say that. This is not mine, but again, I'm going to share this with you. This is from braingimmer.com. So chew gum. It's believed to work by increasing oxygen levels in regions of the brain responsible for attention. Okay, there you go. These are experiments. All right. Next one is meditate. A regular meditation practice builds a more efficient brain by stimulating the formation of new brain cells and neural connections, and by increasing brain plasticity. So I think again, what is this? This is an experiment. And I think the important part it said there is the regular meditation practice. So perhaps how you begin your class, maybe a mindful minute to begin your class, perhaps it's worth a try. Experiment. I challenge you to do this for a month and see what happens. Just see what happens. All right, here's another one. Play a musical instrument. It says musicians have bigger, better connected, more symmetrical brains. That's interesting. Something to try. I don't know. Maybe have a couple cowbells in your room and start the class. Hey, let's get some cowbell going on here. I don't know. Something to try. I mean, gosh, it would be. I'm sure there's someone out there that's kind of pulling this stuff off, maybe have some percussion instruments and you have the class play a song together or play to a song together. Like this is just, I'm freestyling right here. If I was forced to have to try one of these, I can figure some things out because I'm a teacher and you can as well. All right, next one. This is interesting. Stay cool. The latest research shows that mental processing speed goes down as the temperature goes up. That's interesting. The ideal temperature for optimal thinking seems to be around 72 degrees Fahrenheit. So, for you admin out there, I mean, that's just something to think about. Because I know in most buildings, the temperature is controlled over there in central office. But it's something to think about for those of you who do have the ability to control the temperature in your classroom. Try it out. It's an experiment. I'm doing some research here, right? And then last thing I want to share with you, there are others on this list, but again, I'm going to share this with you, and it's not mine. It comes from brainjimmer.com. Here's another one. Give your brain a mental workout. It says, while an intellectually challenging endeavor can help you stay mentally sharp, there's evidence that the right kind of brain training program can specifically help you think faster. Help you think faster. So that is, that's interesting. A mental workout. Give your brain a mental workout. Something that I used to do with my students. I used to read Encyclopedia Brown. I used to read some of those cases to my students to start the day, just to get their brain warmed up, get them going. And then another thing that I used to do with them is I used to give them these puzzles, and there was a certain formula with them, and I'm struggling to. So there would be these letters or words or shapes arranged in a certain way, and they would represent a phrase, right? And I'm trying to think of one. Anyways, so imagine capital I, and then in between those I's is the word, and small and is the word right, RIGHT. So two I's, and in the middle the word right. And so the phrase that's trying to get the students to think of is right between the eyes. Right between the eyes. And it's just it was so entertaining to be in that room when the students had that revelation that, I should have had that. So that was a mental exercise that I put my students through, and it really we connected more as a result of doing that, because the kids had a lot of fun, and I would try to give them clues along the way, and it didn't affect their grades. So they're giving me effort. We're having fun together. I'm giving their brain a little workout, trying to get them going. And so that helped them when it's time to get to social studies. You can do that. And there are tons of resources out there. And as I'm thinking about this, I should probably maybe put something together for you on marvinbyrd.com, so you have a one-stop shop so you can access all of that information. Well, I've gone almost 40 minutes here, and that is a little bit longer than I want to, because I want you to be able to come in here, get your PD, and get out and go on your day. So I thank you so much. For watching. Keep that in the back of your mind when we talk about thinking speeds, that thinking cycle. Talk with your colleagues about that as you go about your day, about your week. Thank you once again for watching. Thank you for listening. And don't forget to check out marvinbyrd.com for very 5-minute or less blog posts to check out to add to your personal professional development. Thank you so much. Until we meet again, never forget that teachers are leaders.